And next up here is the little plunger here on the safety lever. We're going to just polish that with the Dremel just to make it perfectly shiny. Wipe it off here. Of course, I got to take it out now and clean out that channel where it lives. But I don't know if you can tell or not, but that is much brighter than what we had before. And last up here on the safety levers, we just got to round over the area right here, or smooth it out. As I think I showed you before, it's just a little bit roughed up from rubbing on the top of that decocking lever. And for this, we're just going to use our special slipstones with a little bit of oil, and just by rocking the stone while we're removing the metal, we'll take away any of the rough edges here. I know the way that sounds, well, it feels the way it sounds. It's really rough. Boy, it's surprising just how rough that is. No wonder this gun felt rough whenever you would drop the hammer. Alright, that should be good enough with the stone. And I don't know if that shows up or not, but kind of removed all of the burrs and just rounded it over just a touch. Obviously you don't want to do that too much. If you remove too much metal, it may not actually push far enough down on the decocking lever and drop the hammer. But that's a lot better. And now I'm just going to hit it with the Dremel just a little bit, and we're all finished with this piece. And now I'm finished with the Dremel. I've wiped it off. I didn't video the Dremel just because it's just too small of an area to really hold under the camera, but now you can see where it's just shiny as a mirror right there, just perfectly polished. Now on the Seer, the idea is to polish just slightly these two tips right here where you see the shiny part on the hook. The reason why those two parts are shiny, that's where the Seer drags over the notches in the hammer whenever the hammer is going from single action back to double. So it's that does not have any bearing on the releasing of the Seer, but rather just the hammer cycling over the Seer, getting reset for the next shot. On the back side here, this is where the Seer does its work. If you could see, the two hooks have a beveled edge that are at a certain angle in relationship to the hammer. Those hooks are what engages the hammer and holds it in place. Then whenever you pull the trigger, the drawbar tugs on the Seer forward towards the muzzle, releasing the hammer to fire the round. So the back side here, we're definitely not going to do any kind of stoning of the Seer. There's no need for that. This Seer is in perfect shape. But we're going to polish this with the Dremel later, just a little bit, just to put a little bit more of a shine on it. That'll help it slip a little bit whenever you are releasing the hammer. But on the front here, where these two pieces are already a little bit shiny, we're just going to use the Dremel on these two just to polish those a little bit more. Nothing much here. You can't mess with the Seer too much, or else you really run the risk of changing the ability for the gun to stay in single action without the hammer just accidentally falling. So you don't want to get into changing any of the geometry here, certainly. On this part of the Seer, however, this lobe is what presses on the spring and the grip. That's that black flat spring. I have on other guns seen an improvement whenever I go in and I polish this with a Dremel. This does not slide up and down on that spring very much at all. It mostly just presses on it, but I'm convinced that polishing this is not a waste of time, so we'll go ahead and take care of that with the Dremel also. Here we go with the lobe first. And just like that, we are done. Let me wipe it off here. And I think you can see there just how much of a shine we put on it. Much, much smoother. Now the back of the Seer hooks here, going to do that next. Wipe it off, and I think you can see now how much shinier they are. Not bad. Then on the face of them, let me go ahead and just hit these just a little bit. Wipe that off. Yeah, it may not show up well on camera, but that's better. That's exactly what I was after right there. I think you can see the shine there. All right, next up is the slide. There's only a couple things we're going to do with this. We're going to polish this bar right here on the underneath of the slide. We've already talked about why we're going to do that. And then also right here we're going to polish these two recessed areas here where that plunger resides on the safety lever, and everywhere in between, just to make it a little bit smoother whenever we're dropping the safety on it. And to get started on this, all we do is we're going to use this sharpening stone. It's a 1/4 inch square. It happens to fit just perfectly right here, and I'm just going to work this back and forth until I get that sanded smooth, and then I'll go to a smoother stone, and then we'll end up with a Dremel on it to polish it perfectly smooth. And I use water with these stones, so I'm just going to dip it in water here and get going. We'll take a look here. It's a little bit better. Wipe it off here. It's getting there. See it shine just a little bit. And as I'm doing this, as I've flattened out that part of the slide, I could really tell, because now it feels like the whole stone is coming in contact with that bar. It's almost as if it's suctioned itself down to the bar. So I know I'm getting pretty close with what I could do with this one. Then I'll switch over to this smoother stone. Okay, we're just about done there. I'm gonna also, if you remember, there was a burr right here on the end. I'm just going to angle this stone downward a little bit, just to round that over just a touch. Boy, that's pretty bad. And we're good. Then we'll go on to the next smoother stone. And next up is this stone. This is that very super fine sharpening stone here. This will take off a little more of the roughness here and get me ready for my Dremel. And I'm done with using the sharpening stones here. It only takes about 3 or 4 minutes to get it to this point, but you can see probably with that glare right there in the light at what we've done. So we've got it shined up pretty good, and now the Dremel. You see there, we're getting pretty close to a mirror finish. A few more minutes here, I'll be done. Alright, I'm all done now polishing that bar up. You can see it, the reflection now, how shiny it is. I just spent another 2-3 minutes with the Dremel on it, and got it as good as I need to get it. I could take it a little further, but just in the interest of time, it's time to move on. That little burr area there, it is removed. I'm going to open up the exposure a little bit here. Hopefully it's not too bright on your monitor, but you can see the edge there when I rounded it over with the Dremel, made it nice and smooth. And this is just like a mirror. You can see the reflection there of the punch that I've got. The little bit of hazy area you see in the middle is just a low spot. I don't need to take it down too much material around it to get to that low spot. That's the original bead blasting, and also right there. But that's good enough right there. So now on to the recesses right here. Now to get to this area, I've got to be very careful. The tip of this felt wheel is smaller than the diameter of the whole opening here, but I don't need to polish anything else except for where I'm pointing with my finger. So I'm just going to barely stick the tip in right here and then turn it on, and then just apply pressure on that side of the slide. And it's just very dirty, but it is very shiny. Let me turn up the exposure a little bit. Maybe you could see it. You can see what I've done in there. Hopefully that's in focus. You zoom in a little bit. You can see there how it's all nice and bright. That's exactly what I wanted. And now to do the two recessed areas here, I'm actually going to put a Q-tip inside the Dremel. I need something very small in diameter, and Q-tips do this just perfect. Alright, here we go with the Q-tip here. Hopefully I can get this in good enough view for the camera here. And that just that got into those channels better than the felt wheel did by itself. So that Q-tip just happens to fit right in there and do it perfect. I'm gonna do this off camera for another couple seconds here. It's just too hard to keep it under the camera. And we're all done. You can see what the Q-tip looks like after about a minute, but that's fine. The cotton wrapped itself around the shank, which is really what I wanted anyway, because that shank just happens to fit in that channel just perfect. But that baby is shining now. So we are done with the slide. Alright, next up is the barrel. We're going to take the ramp of the barrel and sand it down with 220, then 320, and then the 600 paper, along with the underneath of the hood right here, where it's very, very rough. And then once we're done with that, we'll Dremel out the ramp, and then the hood, and then the mouth surrounding the chamber. One way to get into this hood right here is just take a thin strip of sandpaper like this, then wrap it around your finger where you're pinching it with your thumb and then your middle finger so it's wrapped tight. And then you can reach into the hood area, and that way you can work it, and your finger is going to fit the contour of the underneath of that hood. And here I'm using 320 grit. 320 will move the metal pretty quickly now that I've gotten most of the rough stuff out of the way with the 220. I think you can see what I'm doing here, where I got the paper wrapped around my fingers, then the tip of the finger right in that ramp. And now I'm up to the 600, and just for maybe 30 seconds will be good enough on this. Then we'll go right to the Dremel. And that's how we look now. I'm done with the sandpaper. It doesn't look a whole lot better on camera than it did before, but it's still dirty. I haven't really wiped it clean. But it only took me about maybe 5 minutes of work to get it to this point, so I'm ready to go with the Dremel now. I'm going to start with the hood first. And in doing the ramp, this felt wheel that I'm using here just fits perfectly. Plus it really fits the mouth of the chamber. I just take the barrel and rotate it around while I hold it at an angle to the Dremel. And that'll get it real good around the circumference of it. And on the face of the barrel right here, I did not sand that because I don't want to change the dimensions on the barrel at all. I just want to polish that just with the Dremel. Good enough for now. I'm gonna wipe it off. We'll take a look at it here. Alright, we'll take a look at the barrel now that I've cleaned it. Let me turn up the exposure a little bit. I'm gonna try to take away some shadows. But you can see the ramp there, we got it pretty good. I'm gonna hit it one more time off camera here. Face of the hood is very good, and then also the underneath of the hood we got, and then the mouth surrounding. I don't know if you could see around it too well. There's maybe not enough light here, but there's no reason now why ammunition won't slide in and out of this one. So we are done with the barrel.